So how do you preach the gospel in a place like China, where the church is persecuted and underground? The fact is, when there's a heart to get Jesus into a nation or into a people group, there are all kinds of creative ways that come up in the hearts and the minds of God's servants. One of the things that you've probably heard about is the way that people go into China and teach English in the universities and in the Western places. The missionaries call them English corners, where people come to learn English, and then you can share the gospel with them as well. And the fact is, the people that are coming to those, obviously, naturally, would be the business managers, owners, influential people that really need to be able to speak English. So that's an awesome thing that's happening as the gospel goes through this underground network of whatever it may be, creative ministries that happen. You know, when you think about a place like China where the church has to function out of sight of the government or away from the rules, breaking the rules really, how do they do that and maintain their integrity and so on? They have not opposed the government. They've just basically done their work as they can do it and just keep going ahead, trying to stay under the radar, and get the gospel out there to as many people as they can. The fact is that there's enough Christians in China right now that if they did oppose the government, the nation could probably be turned to Christianity, but that's not going to happen because of the way that persecution keeps the church dispersed, disconnected and so on. But we can pray that that'll happen one day. But the point is that God is honoring these believers. He honors their faith. He honors the way that they stay in submission. They stay, wonderful, beautiful people. Obviously, they'd be the best citizens. They'd be the most honorable, the highest level of integrity in their communities and in their businesses and in their positions. And so let's thank God for this awesome example that the Chinese underground church gives to us, where they can just keep going along peaceably and faithfully, persistently to preach the gospel and do the job that God has called them to do.
When you work in a nation like China or Vietnam, you have to think of creative ways to evangelize. Some of the ways that we've evangelized and other people in our groups is we have, for example, English Corner, where we go and we might go into a Starbucks or we might go into a coffee house, and there we share English and we share the Bible. And people come around and they're interested in hearing about what is this man sharing and what is this book he's sharing out of. And the English Corner oftentimes is a great way to meet people. Campus evangelism. There's many campuses in China where evangelists are coming in and sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. They're building bridges, they're building access to the gospel. And we have to think of creative, ingenious ways and still work in these nations that have oftentimes quite oppressive situations. We have to think of ways to bring the gospel to them. We've seen in KFC and McDonald's, we've seen people evangelize. We've seen people do this in all kinds of ways. Sometimes they'll just go to the park and they'll talk about Jesus in the park. But whatever the mean is, we have to be open. We have to be sensitive to let Jesus be known to these nations. We have business people who have often been in the business world and have done quite well, very successful in some of our groups in our city. And now they receive Jesus Christ. They become evangelists. They're a powerful evangelist. Every day they want to evangelize. They talk to their groups, their other CEOs. They go to maybe a multi-level, high-developed business that's Fortune 500 business in China, and they're evangelizing, and they're doing it in their boardrooms, and they're doing it in behind the doors. We had the opportunity to work with a multimillionaire in our city, and he let us use one of the boardrooms, which is like a CEO boardroom, and we say, well, how did we get here? But God is using these various points to get the message of Jesus Christ out.
We do have 2 days every week. 2 days we have our leaders come into our house to worship and pray. We have a very intense prayer meeting. And we have another day as more like a leadership training in our city with our leaders. And if we travel outside, normally we have 3 days training.
Some leaders that we give responsibility to take the information we give them back to their groups. Most of the leaders we work with already have other cell groups or churches they're working with. So we train them, as said, for short periods, 1 to 3 days, and then we might not see them for a month or two, and then we go back again. some cities we might go into is 5 to 10 times a year. But our city right now, we have various groups that we work with. Most of these are business people. They're people that already have jobs and businesses, and yet they have a strong desire to be equipped as leaders. And then they take the biblical training in their own lives and development, and then they share that with their groups. Sometimes those groups are 5, sometimes they're 10. Usually most groups are in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 people. And we have maybe 10 groups right now we're working with in our city. So they're usually small and they're very focused, and we don't work with large groups that often. We have in the past, but we try to minimize that and work with small groups. We believe that the Great Commission, Matthew 28, Mark 16, Acts 1:8, these words of Jesus, these words from Paul, these words are for our instruction to take the gospel into the uttermost. And whether we're in Thailand or Russia or Vietnam or China, we believe that this is the time, this is the season, and God will make a way. He will open doors that no man can shut. He will do that, and He will make ways, but we have to be obedient. As it says, the fields are white for the harvest, but the laborers are few. Our heart is to labor and to do what we can do, and we know God will do the rest. What we believe on the horizon is that there will be an openness in economic things. There already is. And the world is looking to China. And as that happens, China actually will probably be more and more open to the world. As money and materialism can be used by God, believe it or not, to turn their eyes to God. I think in the next 5 years, China not only will be one of the most powerful economic nations in the world, but it will be probably a place where evangelists will be sent out of China as they are today, and these evangelists will go into the Middle East. We've trained evangelists in Beijing that have gone into their heart was to go into various nations of the Middle East. And we believe these will be Chinese evangelists going into the nations of the world.
When you partner with this ministry, you equip us to plant churches in Asian nations like Thailand. Our aggressive church planting strategy is making a difference in individual lives. Through your gift, you bring the truth of the gospel to people who are desperate for real answers. Through our churches, we train and develop individuals to become doers of the Great Commission. Call us today and help us plant churches in Thailand.
Continuum Media is online to get you connected with your Great Commission destiny. Subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Tangle. Add us up on Facebook. Subscribe to our podcasts. And of course, check out our website, ContinuumMedia.com. Watch episodes. Catch up with the latest missions news around Asia. Download tons of missions resources, like Dr. Al's CLR training materials, and get our monthly newsletter right in your inbox, and find out how you can get involved in God's Great Commission. Stay connected with us, and we'll take you there.
Imagine what's in store for China's future. We see this tremendous underground church that's grown and developed and matured. They become such wonderful, powerful believers, men and women of tremendous faith. And you see, that's got to have an influence on the nation. It's got to bring change into that nation. So when we look on the horizon, we can see a wonderful unfolding of all the blessing and all the faith, the honor that God is going to bring to the church and in return bring to the nation. I'm excited about that because China is a major world influence. And as Christianity rises and becomes prominent in this nation because of the wonderful spirit that we see in the Chinese believers, we're going to see that same spirit come around the world out of China, where we see, they are the people that are raising up and have the heart to raise up so many hundreds of thousands of missionaries. We're going to see a tremendous release come out of that in the last days as Jesus brings the last ingathering of souls. He is going to use the Chinese people.